thank you for being here with us. Let me introduce you to Chris Hoder, the product lead for the overall Foundry Models business. Chris, in the models world, you've been doing this for a couple of years, right? The velocity of change, the decision-making that customers have to go through have gone from which model, what's the different features of the model, of sheer velocity and rate of change decision-making, right? Customers are dealing with not just a new model a couple times a year, sometimes it's a couple times a month. There's a new frontier model to incorporate into the overall fleet of products that the customer is working from. And in that way it's like fleet management, right? So what are you guys doing within the Foundry organization, since you have such a broad portfolio of decisions that the customer can choose from, to help the customer manage all of that decision making and kind of think about the enterprise scale of this fleet management?
Yeah, it's a really great question and something we think a lot about, and is really what we're aiming to solve with Foundry. And so when you think about fleet management, right, you're going to have a series of different solutions, applications, and problems that you're solving. And so we approach this with an intentionally simple principle. We want our customers to be able to start as high as they can and go as low as they must. And so what this means to us is basically you want to start your application and your journey with the most managed application. And so we want you to have to not worry about model availability, what is in which location, and all of those challenges that happen in the industry when you don't have to. And then as you hit custom requirements and mature your application, you might find specific needs that bring you into different features within the portfolio itself. And so what that means for us here, it'll show up a lot of different ways, but you could think about it as we offer the OpenAI models as a pay-per-call service. You can go and use them direct. We offer not just OpenAI, but Anthropic and other providers. And then if you have more customized needs, you can start to look at different flavors of offerings. And so you can go down to managed compute. Managed compute provides a trade-off of you're not getting that pay-per-call environment, you're deploying full models and you're going to pay for that infrastructure to be sitting there. But you get customization, you get the ability to manage the models you're deploying. And so it gives you a wider access of models, more configuration and control. And you can go even further, right? You can go further down to with Azure Local, we have the ability to use models deployed locally and on your computer in the edge, and that gives another set of your portfolio that can all be managed through the Foundry product.
So that's really exciting, because you're really explaining an area where, regardless of the decision making the customer needs to be, whether it's infrastructure or model specific, right? They don't have to leave the Foundry environment in order to see that one view and manage all that change within one location. What is that going on within the tool and the platform itself?
Yeah, so we can jump into Foundry and we can show you how within that one studio, you have a set of options that allows you to go through and choose these different experiences within the same interface. And so when you think about all that change management, you get one interface, one product, one set of approaches. And that means less concepts you have to know, less change management in a lot of ways, and simplicity for you to just kind of go and iterate to what's best for your application.
But let's talk a little bit about what happens when you're in there, right? It's not always as simple as it sounds. The customer wants to deploy quickly, but they're like, which model? Which Azure region or which endpoint do I need to pick from, right? What deployment location, what deployment type, what deployment cost and offer? There's a lot to choose from. And so through all that process, sometimes it can take you 20, 30 minutes just to make all those decisions. You haven't even written a line of code. What's going on within Foundry right now to actually make that process faster, less friction?
Yeah, we are on a journey to make setup and getting started as simple as possible and really simplify the product. And that goes to that start as high as you can, go as low as you must. And so for new users, if you're going in and getting started, we can show you the experience where you can just go in, select your model and get started right away in a matter of seconds, right? It's just get and explore the models, explore your use case. And then as you start to understand what you want to build with it, you get to start to think about the complexities and needs that you have. But those are, when you need them, you're able to discover them and start using them.
So you can deploy and then decide.
You don't even need to worry about how to start. You log in, you choose your model, and you start exploring in the interface with our playground.
That really does sound awesome, Chris. Can you show me what you're talking about on here?
Yeah, so let's hop right into it. What you can see here is our experience if you're a new user. You're on the Foundry homepage. We can, within a few clicks, we're just gonna choose the latest model, and bam, we're off. Exploring in the playground, we can start to ask our questions. We can start to see how the model responds as we play.
Yeah.
And I didn't need to worry about any complexities. I also didn't even really need to choose a model, right? We're telling you what's the latest ones to think about. And you can jump off into code. We've got the code there to start going and building into your application and iterating.
That actually really makes sense, Chris, and that's a lot faster than what we've tried to talk customers through in the past, right? When a customer decides on the model that they want, they know what they want to use, they have to decide how much they're going to use. That's always the tokens, right? That's the universal exchange. The customer decides around how many tokens per minute they need in a certain amount, and they need to request quota proactively. How's Foundry helping the customer handle that?
Yeah, we're on a quest to essentially remove that from your decision-making process until you have to.
Good.
And so we make it really easy to get started, and you're just starting to consume the models without having to think about config and setup. Once you get into code and you're starting to program and you're starting to use a lot more tokens, you're going to hit limits. There's limits in the consumption rate that you can go on. And what we've done here is we've made it so that you have a set amount of throughput that you're able to get within your subscription for a model. And that might be in the global standard offering. And then every time you're using a deployment or you're just calling the model, you're going to be consuming from that. This has a lot of customer benefits towards where we've been in the past, where now it's one value instead of being split up regionally. And if you are using it in one location but not the other, you don't have to worry about that fragmentation. You have one global value that you're deducting from for all of your applications. It makes management a lot simpler. It makes it easier for you to know what's happening. So we're moving to a proactive world where we're able to tell when you're getting closer to your limits, you're consuming actively with us. And so once we notice that, we'll start to automatically increase you up, what we call tiers. So we offer 6 different tiers within the service, from tier 1, which has a small amount of throughput, all the way up to tier 6, which should never be an issue of throughput except for our largest customers. And we will start to proactively increase and email you, moving you up and giving you additional throughput without you having to even think about going and requesting.
That actually sounds really useful and proactive. The customer can actually see when they're reaching a limit, and you're anticipating that for them on their behalf, so there's not decision-making required in that side.
Yeah.
That's really great.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Let's talk about optimizing, right? Once you know what model you want to choose in Foundry, how do you optimize it for the business that you need to run with that use case?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we talk about it with customers every day. And I
all the
think you
time.
really hit the critical decisions that customers have to make as they move into production and beyond. We'll talk about data.
Okay.
So data processing, data residency, we provide a couple of different options there. So first off, when your resource region in Azure, the data is always going to be stored and reside within that geography.
Okay.
No matter which deployment processing option you take, which means that once your data is stored in storage, you know where it is. Then for processing, we offer 3 different options that give you a trade-off between the access and availability of models and throughput that you can get with cost and residency, essentially. And so at the top, you have our global offering. This allows processing anywhere in the world, which means that we have the widest available capacity. We are able to give you all the models. We're able to give the highest level of throughput and really great performance because we're able to balance traffic across that global blackboard. Then once you say you want a little bit more control over your data, you have a concept called data zones. Data zones are a multi-geography construct that we've created to allow customers to have assurances that their data is only processed within a set location. That means, similarly, you get a wide access to models, you get a little bit less throughput often than global, and you tend to pay a little bit higher. Then the third option is going all the way down to the resource region, which means processing happens within your Azure geography. And as you can imagine, capacity is generally a very hot topic in the industry today. It's constrained. And so when you get down to regional, you're going to be trading off model availability, the amount of throughput you can get to have that regional processing guarantee, and it's going to come at the highest cost of the 3 options.
That makes sense to me then. It sounds like you really have understood the constraints of the market.
And we're really designing around start as simple as you can and go as complex as you must. And so we gear towards starting with that global offering because it is going to give you the best experience. You're going to have the easiest path to iteration and really seeing value. And then you start to layer in requirements as you have them.
And I know you talked a lot about performance, right? So even within those different kind of geographical decisions, right, or data requirements, customers can actually choose different types of performance as well?
Yeah, so performance, now we're talking about the speed at which we're able to generate responses as. And that typically trades off the speed of the call, the amount of throughput that you get, and then the cost. And so you have those three variables that you're playing with. And what we're aiming to do is provide solutions that hit the common scenarios we have in market. And so we have one extreme, very fast, low latency. We call it our priority processing. It's an SLA-backed offering that provides the fastest responses that we offer. You're going to pay a little bit of a premium, but you get that latency guarantee as a result. And then in the middle, we call it our standard. This is what we think of as the balanced offering. We're balancing the speed and the cost for you to what we believe hits the majority of use cases. And this is, if you know nothing else, start there. Right? It's going to be what most users will expect and be sufficient for most use cases. And then as you start to get a little bit less latency sensitive, we have our batch offering. And the batch offering is asynchronous. It lets you do very, very high throughput, but it's only going to respond in about 24 hours. And it comes at a very big discount. And so you're able to get higher throughput, less kind of per call speed because it's 24 hours at a very big discount. And so you're able to play off those three variables to figure out how to optimize your solution to your business needs.
And I could see how customers, even within one use case, right, even within one business model, they actually might have need for all three. But it sounds like as the customer learns more about their requirements, they can optimize the decisions at each point, right, and mature with their offering choice as the business case matures. You mentioned performance, but throughput is a big conversation, right, with customers, especially as they don't really have a sense of how much they're going to need at any one point. So how does a customer optimize there?
Yeah, this is top of mind with everyone, right? It's in the news daily. The world does not have enough capacity, not enough GPUs, not enough CPUs in the world today to satisfy the amount of demand that we're seeing, frankly. And we talked through priority, standard, and batch. These are what we call our pay-as-you-go offerings, or pay per call. You basically pay transactionally. Mirrored to that, we have what we call our provisioned offers. This is an hourly-based billing model, and it is our highest scale offer. We support our largest customers on this. It provides guaranteed throughput with that latency-backed SLA. And so you're going to know that you have that throughput available to you before you start calling. So if you're in a mission-critical workload where you need to know that you're going to have the throughput there for you at a premium speed, at a high scale, provisioned is our solution for you. Let's take a scenario. So I am building my application. I'm having success. So I started with global standard because I didn't have any additional requirements. Now I'm starting to see, hey, I need premium speed. I need to make sure my speed is as fast as possible. And maybe I'm starting to hit a high enough scale. And so I can go in here, look at our deployment here. You can see my traffic that we're running on it. And you can see I can start to explore the different deployment options. And it will start to tell me my cost trade-offs that I'm having and start to recommend that, hey, I might want to think about provision because my traffic is large enough scale in the right traffic shape to be of benefit to me. It's not just a one size fits all. You want to have assurances that that capacity is there, and you might have a premium workload, but there's always inconsistencies. And that way, provision isn't going to solve the solution fully. And that's where provision and priority work fantastically together. And so you get that assurances that you're not going to get throttled back. Your application will run, but you will switch different deployment experiences as you run out and consume different amounts that you've allocated.
And Foundry has figured out ways to help customers optimize as their workloads grow. Chris, we've talked through a bunch of the vision that you have for Foundry and the actual UI changes that you're putting in there to meet the customer where they are. It makes it simple to identify the tokens that they need, the throughput, the latency, dependent upon their individual need sets, and it even makes recommendations so that it can mature, right, as their workload matures with them. So I'm curious, what is next in the roadmap for the overall Foundry planning?
Yeah, I love it. We are on a mission to make things as simple and easy to use as possible. And that's a challenging space, right? We talked about how models in the whole industry is moving at an accelerating pace. And with innovation comes change, it comes different ways of thinking about it. So we want to provide both the fastest access to the latest innovation. So that's getting you the model same day. But we also want to provide unification, the way that you can understand concepts across different trade-offs around performance, price, data, deployment option methods. So you get all of those trade-offs, but you're not learning new concepts. You're not thinking about new things. You're just trading off the decisions that matter most to you. And you'll see us continuously evolve in that. We're going to continue to push the cutting edge. And then at the same time, we're going to focus on that journey of simple getting started. You basically go right into iterating with the models. You find your model, and then you progressively start to layer in the complexity as you need it. And that way, you don't have to worry about all of these options and configurations and features we have unless you need to.
That's so reassuring, right? I'm privileged in the situation that I've gotten to see you and your team build this out. And quite frankly, I'm excited. But I think mostly you as a customer can start to feel really excited to understand what can Foundry mean to your workload, to look forward to the things it might recommend for you, and to do your own discovery, knowing that this team is committed to growing with you as you and your AI endeavors grow.